Good morning, everyone. It seems to be one of those mornings. It is Monday. It is the sixth day of the sixth month, 2022. It is good to have you with us on this Monday, with Monday, a bank holiday, and many of you are home. So maybe that's why the internet is doing its own thing. But it's good to have all of you with us. And while you're here with us, let us know that you are tuned in. Let us know that you have joined us live today. And we are talking about man, the leader, men as leaders, real leaders. That's what we're talking about. And it can be controversial, especially for the feminists who do not necessarily agree, but who believe that we are all equal. And, I will not share my views sometimes on that because I believe that in some instances we are. Even though the Bible does say, give way to men, allow them, man is the head, but we'll delve into that more this morning. I must offer apologies for Bishop Mark, who is not able to join us today. However, we have Minister Sinclair and Pastor Bino with us today. But before we jump into things, let me remind you about our conference, okay? Let us remind you about our conference. This is where our ladies who are tuned in, you will register the man in your life, the men in your lives. Um, this is also where the men also take initiative and make sure that they call 827-3029 or WhatsApp that number and let us know that you are interested in getting your tickets for the Becoming a Better Man conference. We've got some great things in store. I've got some partners to with some great giveaways for you. Good morning to the folks over at Springs Healing Touch. We've got some giveaways for some men on that Saturday evening. But it starts on Friday, the 17th of June via Zoom. It's a conversation only for men. Sex, money, and men. That's right. The gentleman, Bishop Mark, Pastor Bino, Minister Sinclair will be taking care of that. Then on Saturday from 3 o'clock, we have at Restoration Ministries in Britain Hill, St. Michael. We're talking about God, my Father, understanding fatherhood and how your spiritual connection with your Father, your Heavenly Father, affects your relationship you have with those you're called to father. And then we close out the evening, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, still at Restoration Ministries with Bishop Mark, the man of purpose. So it's all $30. We'll have light refreshments. Um, light refreshments also to share with you throughout the evening. But you have to register early. That's the only way we'll know based on our numbers and our COVID requirements, how many people we have to prepare for and so forth. Tickets are available if you need to get your tickets. Usually Monday, well, today's a bank holiday, Monday to Friday, I'll be at Restoration Ministries from about 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning till about 3 o'clock. You can get your tickets there if you need to, or you can contact any of these gentlemen also if you need to get your tickets. But you need to WhatsApp or call 827-3029. So good morning to Kiran. Good morning to Juliet, Jason, all with us this morning. And a big shout out to Mr. Marshall, who is celebrating a birthday today. Big shout out to you, Mr. Marshall. Have a great one. So that's a mouthful as we got started. A big mouthful. So, Minister Sinclair, let's get started. Hope you had a great weekend, both you and the Pastor Bino. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, please. Blessing in the name of Jesus. Thank you once again. This blessed bank holiday. I pray everyone have a wonderful and relaxing day. And thank you for taking time out this morning to listen to the ministry of Men on Monday. So we talk about leadership, men in leadership position. I'm going to restart or stoke the conversation about with men and understanding that until you get to lead yourself, nobody's going to follow. You have to start the understanding of learning things of discipline and self-discipline, understanding how to get yourself to do things, not just talk about it. So maybe they say to my ladies, don't get involved with potential, right? Get involved with patterns. So as a man, as a guy, we should have patterns of showing that we are on our way. Just talking about it is good for somebody to invest or to listen to somebody saying they will do something. But what are we doing? And in order to lead any person, we first have to lead ourselves. And people that see a person leading himself will follow. If you're not leading yourself, nobody follows you. You can have the best ideas in the world, but an idea without a plan is just a dream. So that's one of the main thing I try to get guys to understand. It is really about leading yourself. When you lead yourself, then you get the ears of people. You'll be doing a lot of things, but you may not have the discipline, yeah, to lead yourself. And I think that is one of the main things that is missing. When we talk about leadership of home, having headship, because if you don't understand how to lead yourself, then it's very hard for when even the Holy Spirit tell you to do something for you to do it. You know, people think that hearing from God is the thing. It's easy to hear from God is doing what He tells us to do. That ability to actually tell myself to do what God is saying, which might be counter to how I feel or my emotions or my proclivity or my ideology. But if I'm accustomed to leading myself, I can tell me I'm doing this despite how I feel. And maybe getting that level of leadership of self and then obviously doing what God is telling us to do, and guaranteeing you this, guys, that you would have to be demanding anybody to submit to you. Yeah, because it's hard for women to just say because I'm a Christian, because I'm trying to obey the Lord, I'm going to just naturally submit to a man because what? Because of his gender. So that is one of the things I get guys to begin to see discipline and self-discipline, leading self, and that would lead the ground for the rest of the discussion from my end.
Yeah, definitely. I think Minister Sinclair is off to a very good start because it looks like if he was in my notes, because I was gonna pretty much say the same thing, that you have to be able to lead yourself, and part of leading yourself includes developing a vision for your life. You have to tap into God to understand what it is that He has called you to. And as Minister Sinclair rightly pointed out, a person could get involved in a lot of activities, but are you being strategic? Are you doing the things that God would have you to do specifically, the things that you have called you to? And if you don't have a vision for your life, then don't expect people to follow you, because if you're not going somewhere, then people are going to look at that and recognize you're not going anywhere. So why should I follow you? Yeah, to get people to follow us, we need to have a sense of vision. We need to have a mission. We need to have a sense of purpose. We have to know why God has put us in the earth as men, what He has called us to do. So you have to have that vision for your life. You have to have that sense of purpose. So even before you get married, yeah, if you're thinking about getting married, what is it that God has called you to? And then the whole thing about being disciplined, being focused. One of the challenges with men is that they're inconsistent in that some of them don't focus on what they're supposed to be doing. Today they want to be this, tomorrow they want to be something different. And so sometimes you have a lot of instability, uncertainty, and then you have the whole aspect of insecurity. So you got to deal with that. You got to focus on what is it that I need to do. I need to concentrate on that. Take, for example, tertiary education. You have many women going ahead, developing themselves, investing in themselves. And then while you do have some men that would go and study, there are other men who have the capacity, but they don't do it because they lack the discipline, they lack the focus. Whether it is going to UB or going to the Polytechnic, it really doesn't matter where you go. The fact is that you are disciplining yourself to have a focus because you are not thinking just about the immediate and the short term. You're thinking about your future. You're thinking about your family's future. And so you have to make that kind of an investment in yourself so that then you can lay a proper foundation for the family. And then Sinclair mentioned about emotions. And one of the things is that we have to control our passions and we have to discipline ourselves and control our emotions because you have men that sometimes throw their lives away because they're in love with sex and so on. They get into immorality, they get into lying, they get into deception, they get into a lot of different behaviors and practices because they're being governed by their passions, they're being governed by their emotions, they're not being governed by the Spirit of God. And the Bible is clear. We have to be led by the Spirit of God, which means that we have to take the time to build that relationship with God. So the last thing I would say is your character is an important part of your leadership. You have to be a person of integrity. You have to be a person that is honest. You have to be a person that's fair, that is just. All of these are biblical qualities. So as we develop that gives us the capacity to lead ourselves. And the Bible talks about the fruit of the Spirit, those kinds of things. All of those are areas that we need to be disciplined in, focused in, and then we could go from there. So once we are able then to lead ourselves, then we can begin to lead others. But if we ain't got the discipline, don't expect to lead nobody.
That's an interesting place to start. We talk about discipline because for us, we understand discipline as the rod for many people. But true discipline, what is it? What does it look like for a man? Let's break that down because we're talking about discipline and leading self. What should it look like? What should I do to start to get myself there to the point of being disciplined? What are some of the practices that I can put in place to say, you know what? Let me work on, the first step, maybe one or two steps that a man can say, let me employ to begin to be disciplined.
My things, I do believe that should have started at home. Yeah, I think that it's unfortunate that in relationships that a lot of women are now having to father or man or mother or man. I think is something that really rubs me the wrong way because those are things that should have been established at home. We're talking about learning how to be responsible. Period. And to me understand that level of responsibility. We are developing in a society that's predominantly run by women in the homes, and then there's a lot of catering towards two ends. Mothers are say, yeah, teach my son how to treat a woman, and they say good, but the same thing you're treating teaching how to treat you, which is not the same as treating a woman outside of the home. And then there's the other element where the males are being almost tenderly raised because you got grown men at 40 and their mother's still washing their clothes and a whole set of elements in there that obviously you're not leading self in both ends of the spectrum. So it is kind of starting there of starting doing the same things as discipline household things I was saying to you, learning survival skills There's no way you're saying to a woman you get married to her and you do not have the basic survival skills, but yet you're asking her to follow you. It makes, and then say you can have a strong relationship with God, not disputing if you say have a relationship with God, because a lot of people have a good relationship with God. They're real good worshipers. They read the Bible. But we talked about leading as a person. So we talk about just domestics. We started there. I'm not saying being domesticated, but either way, I'm just saying learning to lead yourself, taking care of yourself. Because now you're coming to a space and asking somebody else to take care of you, which is the opposite way around. It should be in a space where your wife is coming to that space to feel, well, he can take care of himself and somebody else and the children and the community and all those other things. So you find the basic responsibility of self. You know, it's unfortunately in the day that wives got to tell their husbands to bathe. You know what I mean? This is a serious thing. Like seriously. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just serious. This is we're talking about basics, and this is sad, right? And I would I would always have an issue with. I'm sorry, but I always have an issue with youth ministries. And I'm not knocking people what they're doing, but we have church on Sunday, we have church on Sunday, and then youth ministry is just another church program. And I'm not saying don't build people in Christ, but at the end of the day, we still have the church having a gap between 20 to 25 and 40 to 45. They disappear from the church for the most part. This across the world is just a Barbados. It's internationally showing that there's a vacuum of people that are lost and they come back to the church eventually. And one of the main things that they go into the world and they have no life skills, they love the Lord, baptize the Holy Spirit, speaking in tongues, but not having the ability to lead themselves, not understanding the functionality of life, not understanding, as we mentioned, through money and all those things. And unfortunately, you're saying that as a man, we are leaders, we love the Lord, we understand the scriptures, but we don't understand leading self. And let me say this, like myself, I remember with my wife, we were married, and there were opportunities for me to become a manager and different things in different spaces. And I was like, why would I want to be a manager? You know what I mean? My wife was saying, but you have these skill sets and you have this. In my mind was, why would I want to lead people? And here's my wife seeing all this potential in this dude, and I'm just like, no, I go to work, deal with me, I out of there like peace. Why would I want to be in a space and lead people? People are stressful, people are this. And you can imagine the stress my wife would be going through, seeing this guy with all this potential. But for me, why would I want to lead people? And that is a mindset that I had to break, because it was a lack of understanding self. And this is, I think, quite important when it comes to, as you asked, Marissa, understanding certain of responsibility of self and therefore walking into those positions because by extension, then people will follow you. So I think the first thing is learning responsibility. And at a very early age, actually.
Well, when I actually was doing a little look at what discipline is, it is the practice. It is a practice, and practice is something that is done repeatedly, about training, a practice of training, and it makes me think about the fact that, um, even as big men and women, you have to practice, you have to train yourself to be better. There are certain times you have to say to yourself, okay, so this I've been doing this and it's not working, so I must find a new practice to employ to get me to where I want to go. But I often think that people don't even know where they want to go. So generally, they're just moving from day to day. And I believe we need to set goals. Whether you are a father, whether you are an uncle or grandfather, I believe that everyone should have goals at different stages of their lives and work progressively towards reaching those goals. I believe it's very important to do that. But we're going to take a break here, because I want to remind you about our conference. I'm just sharing that with you, our conference, which is coming up um, on June 17th and June 18th, right before Father's Day. We're celebrating the men. That's right. Whoop, whoop. We're celebrating the men. And we're having our conference first on Friday. It's going to be Zoom, via Zoom. This is where men will have a free space to have their conversations. And no women are allowed. I must say that no women are allowed in those conversations at all. The men will have their safe space to ask their questions and have their questions answered. That's on Friday night, the 17th via Zoom. Then on the 18th, we will be live in person at the Restoration Ministries International. That's in Britton's Hill. Pastor David Durant has so allowed us to be able to utilize his facility. So please join us there. But their tickets are $30. It's just $30. We'll have light refreshments. We've even got some great giveaways. I got a shout out again. A young lady who has said, I'm willing to just support you. She has Springs Healing Touch. Fiona, good morning to the team there, Fiona. And she's donated a special something just for the men, no women, no women. We've got something coming up for you in July though, the women. But this is all about the men. It's all about the men. So women, register the men in your lives. And also men, you can WhatsApp us at 827-3029. That's 827-3029. And a big shout out to the folks over at Healthy Cottage also for making sure that you're taking care of your. We also want to share with you Bishop Bino's new book, latest book. This man is an author. If you did not know, he's penned many books and continues to write 8 Success Factors for a Healthy Life, available on Amazon right now. So make sure you get your book. So shout out to the folks over at Healthy Cottage and also the 8 Success Factors for a Healthy Life, much of which we're taking um, our notes from today, sharing this knowledge with you. So we're talking about discipline. And Pastor Bino, I'm sure you want to have your share this morning. We're talking about discipline, a practice in training. Let's talk about that.
Minister Sinclair said some very powerful things that it starts in the home. Wherever men are, they have to have a focus and they have to have a discipline. So if you're in the workplace, there's certain habits that you have to cultivate. One of the habits is learning your job, developing on your job, doing the work that you're supposed to do. Discipline is sometimes about doing the little things and doing them consistently. So what is expected of you in the work environment? What are you expected to do? You expected to get to work by a certain time. You make sure that you get to work at that time. You're expected to leave at a certain time. You ensure that you don't leave before. You're expected to do certain things in the context of that job. You do them, and sometimes, as Minister Sinclair pointed out by using his own example, sometimes you have men with tremendous potential, but they limit themselves and they don't push themselves to the levels that they can get to because they don't have the discipline or they don't have the focus or they don't have the desire. So I could take my dad for an example. My dad was a chef and he was a long-standing chef. And I mean, he had some skill. He represented the hotel internationally and that kind of thing. I mean, the man had tremendous potential, but he didn't really have that dream, that desire to be the top chef, to be the big boy. He was just comfortable doing what he was doing. And sometimes that's what happens. Men become comfortable and so they don't invest the effort to do the things that they need to do. And so many times when they don't do what they're supposed to do, they haven't learned in the home, they haven't modeled certain characteristics in the workplace. When they get married, then they don't have the necessary knowledge and skills that then would help the home, would help the children. So they're kind of lost. And then as Minister Sinclair pointed out, then the women have to mother them and have to take on a disproportionate amount of responsibility and that creates problems and challenges in the relationship. But if the man comes in with a degree of discipline, and we're only talking about the discipline side, yeah, there's a whole aspect of leadership now where the man has to be responsible for making decisions and so on and so forth. But if you don't get the discipline right, then unfortunately you're going to have some challenges in the home, and you will end up frustrating your wife because she's going to be tired coming after you, cleaning up, having to wash your dishes and wash your clothes and cook for you and do all these things, and then she's going to feel like a modern day slave. So it's important for men to understand it's in the little things. You have to be disciplined and consistent in the little things. Do them repeatedly, as you mentioned, right practice, right consistent practice of little responsibilities is important. Yeah. And then when you're faithful in the little things, doing the little things, God can increasingly give you additional responsibility, additional influence. So now you can go from leading yourself, now you can go into leading a wife or leading in the church or leading in the workplace and so on and so forth. Yeah.
I like the fact you talked about, both of you talked about starting in the home. Because very often and I like the fact that you guys mentioned that men should learn how to be able to contribute in the home, because I found that we've seen leadership as only certain roles. So a man should not, because there are men who would say my mom washes my clothes, so they expect their wife to wash their clothes. um I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with a wife washing clothes, but I'm not saying that that should be your expectation of her. So because we've seen certain roles, really, or they would have grown up with certain roles in the home, seeing the mom cook, seeing the mom wash and mop and so forth, they have generally, and especially if they have not seen a man do it, there's no one to model it after. So for them, the perspective is that the man the man does this and the woman does this. And because of that, when it comes to leadership in some areas, women are left to do this and manage, and men are left to do this. And very often, what looks like leadership really is not leadership, but rather laziness. That's what it really looks like. And that's where we have the confusion between what looks like leadership and what is laziness, not taking up a role, because we think that if you wash clothes or you do in the home, that you are that's not your role of leadership. But how many times have we heard young men say, you know, my mom did that, so therefore when they get into the marriage, they no longer think that they should do it. When it comes to even the hands-on training with children, you see many times the homework. Sometimes women sit and do the homework. The man doesn't help with the homework because he doesn't understand that's also modeling leadership to their sons and their daughters. So I think we need to understand that. Don't get mixed up between laziness and leadership. Don't get mixed up between it. Sinclair, go ahead.
Yeah, I think honestly, you talk about the laziness in leadership. One of the things that you mentioned earlier about the feminist movement and the women's rights movement, I'm all about that. We are all equal. Yeah, but we understand we are different, and I think that I'm born in the cusp of that generation X. I was definitely soaked in the equality era. So I definitely didn't have any baby boomers opening door, put down a quote for Lady Way, she's one across a puddle, that type of thing. And I can tell I don't even have a problem with it. I think feminism has done women a very serious injustice. Um, because there's a difference between equality and then this whole thing that is weird. And because if you're saying we equal, then we equal. You can't ask for your cake and eat it too. Yeah, so I told you I'm raised that if there's someone chasing us, if there's a Freddy Krueger chasing us, then we both need to run, and whoever is last, then he kills that person. So you don't expect me to have the chivalry to protect and all those when we talk about these things. And I think how this has impacted the home and the men and leadership by extension is that a lot of mothers, unfortunately, and because this whole thing, men have not seen themselves as being the person responsible. There are a lot of men raised in homes and they go to help to cook. Even in marriages, I'm telling you, this even happening in marriages where you go to help cook, and it's like, oh, do it this way, do it my way, do it this way, do it this way. Then eventually, man leaves the kitchen. Yeah, you gotta wash this way or do it this way. It's more do it my way because this is the right way. Yeah, this is the right way. And you must have said mothers do that with their boy children, where you know, don't do the cheese this way, we don't pie, do the thing this way, and eventually they're chased out the kitchen. And many times some may have to fight to stay in the kitchen or a fight to, or fight to take care of the kids. Oh, there's my child. There's this whole thing. So eventually men back off and they tell a lot of men that, especially when they're dating, you all set yourself up for failure and then 6 years in, then you complain. Right? Oh, I don't want to ask a man to help me to do anything and da 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 da. This whole and woman hear me roar. Then don't be upset when 6 years in what you created, the monster, you're now living with the monster. So the whole thing of laziness, yes, I do agree. But I do believe that the ideology that I don't need a man, I don't need this, I don't need whatever, allows a man to transition from a home where he was not asked or demanded to do anything, but they come into the home in marriage and also, especially beginning, not asked or demanded to do anything, but then expect him to subconsciously see what is wrong or see what needs to be done and do it because, oh, we shouldn't have any rules. And I think that caused a lot of craziness from the get. I do say to men, listen, you need to work, period. I just mean work, work, but you need to have idea. There's something called responsibility. At the end of the day, you need to understand that if anything happens here, you're the person responsible. We've taken that away from men. We've taken that totally away from men. And now we want to know why men are not stepping up because that role, period, of being responsible. Who at the end of the day, who's both of us? No, not both of us. One person. Until we get back men recognizing you are responsible, we're gonna have. Sorry to bring this up, but I see it in the same space. We're gonna have a situation we saw yesterday with the church. Yeah, and I always have an issue with this, and I don't mind saying this. I say it in other churches, so people that know me know that I say this. I have an issue with women at the door of churches. We talk about leadership. We be trying to find out why leadership, why this, why men not stepping up. What we are saying, here's a church. Yeah, I don't have a problem with women being ushers. I have a problem with women being the gatekeepers. To me, it makes no sense. Because if we talk about something that's simple, we talk simple illustrations. Our children are watching this. If a woman is at the door and a man is coming to whatever the church, what's she gonna do? A grown men back in the front door, sitting there watching the service. To me, that makes no sense. None. Right? Something as simple as putting men at the door straight away. A guy looking to do something and see two big dudes at the door, he can take a second to think about if he can come in or not. Right? And you got guys that can be looking at and they look a little like, yeah, if we can step in this church, step correct. You know, you got women at the door worshiping and closing the eyes and gaining the spirit. Trust me, it's just a matter of time before somebody come a gun and do the same thing soon from now. We need to understand dudes need to be at the door so women can feel safe. Understand? And those are little illustrations where we have not gotten to. And when somebody I be here ushering and need discernment, no, we need some dudes. You understand? At the doors of churches. So when people step into church, if they think of stealing the offering or doing something crazy, they recognize they got some men in here that they're gonna think twice. And we think how this will impact the home because children recognize, oh, as a man, oh, I can't wait to be part of the security. I can't part to be part of this. Men being part of the children's ministry, part of the teaching at church. Don't wait for men to volunteer. Let's say, yeah, you teaching next Sunday, or you train them and say, you teaching just now. Yeah, I've seen if Bishop Mark was here to tell you that is what we did at Love and Light. So you don't got men in Sunday school service and men in the stuff like that. So instead of having this predominant space by women, that also filters into the home because the society isn't teaching us this. Then the church should be part of that teaching program. So that is what I'm saying to you. That understanding that these simple things allow men to then recognize, you know what, you are responsible. Because everybody was looking at that video, and the main dude in the camera, everybody's trying to figure out why he just did comatose. And nobody wants to say, I can say, why he did comatose while there's a person up in here punching people. And you see two people that get punched, a woman and the pastor. You understand? Whose voices did you hear? Jesus, Jesus, women. Yeah. But when are we going to stand? No, man, you are responsible. Forget this foolishness, but both of us are responsible. Forget this thing where responsibility is hanging in the air. And if you see which one to do, you choose it. No, and there, you're responsible. If you're going to tell me the leadership, then and there, I'm responsible. Simple.
Look how you come to stir up an ant's nest. I also believe that. I also believe that there's no way I could be in a home with with my man and somebody's at the door. You send me to go and see what's going on there. I am so
Thank
sorry.
you. Okay, let me
I
ask
do
you this.
not
Why is
admit.
it that you're going to say that about your home, but church, we got a different concept?
I you see, I'm not
No,
managing. I'm not managing the church, but I do
Hey, hey,
agree.
hey, hey, hey. No,
I do
no
agree.
World War III. We already
I
got
do
enough war
agree.
in the world.
I do agree, though.
no,
I do agree
no, it
that
is
there
no,
must
we need
be.
to do
But
this.
but but wait, wait,
Mm.
wait. I want to jump in there quickly. Two things that Sinclair mentioned. One, in the home, you have women who are too aggressive, too domineering, and they don't allow the man to lead. So for the man, it is a constant fight, which is emotionally exhausting for the man. Yeah, because you have a woman that wants to, and we're not talking about being assertive. We're talking about outright being aggressive, being domineering, and stifling the man from providing the quality of leadership that he wants to do. Now, ultimately, as Sinclair said, the man is responsible. Yeah, but even the most responsible man in the home, if it is a constant fight, it is going to drain that man emotionally. It creates a toxic environment that is going to be very, very challenging. So that's one thing. Yeah, you need to trust the man to lead, and sometimes some women just don't trust the man, and then the man is made to feel incompetent. Not that he is incompetent. He is very credible. In fact, the man may be a leader in his workplace, a leader in the church, wherever. But in his home environment, because the woman is too dominant, then he has to constantly fight her to be able to lead. And you don't want that. It does not set a good example for the children, because the children have to see an environment where there's order in the home. It's not that the man wants to dominate. And there's a difference between a man being assertive and a man being aggressive. Yeah, we could talk about aggression. There's the good side of aggression, but there's also the negative side of aggression, where the negative side of aggression is where now you want to control and demand and dictate to the woman as if she's a slave. And again, that's another extreme. That is not leadership. That is control. Yeah. And then there's the other side of control where you become manipulative, where you manipulate the woman and the children to do what you want them to do. So we're not talking about control. We're not talking about manipulation. We're not talking about dictatorship. We're talking about leadership, providing loving responsibility and management and supervision and direction for the home. That's what we're talking about. Now, in the church, I understand what Minister Sinclair is saying, and he talked about the fact that we're going to go and ask men. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I also have a problem that if you are a leader as a man, you should be able to take certain responsibility for yourself and for your involvement in the church. Yeah, I think for too long, men remain in the background. And I thank God for those men that recognize their role, their responsibility, and they're gonna step up. They're gonna do what they need to do because that's a part of leadership. You shouldn't go always be, as it were, running down men. No, I agree that there are times that you need to invite men in because sometimes men may feel shut out. They might have wanted to get involved, and and the women kind of shut them down and prevented them from really being involved to the extent that they should be. But I do believe that men need to be assertive enough to recognize their role and responsibility. If they see women at the door and they feel that, hey, we should have men at the door, then by all means you need to get in there too and be assertive and so on. But we do need to see men involved in different aspects of ministry, whether it's being at the door to provide that kind of security and stuff. When I start church, I am typically at the door. Yeah, when I start church, I am typically at the door and I'm monitoring. I out there and I looking around, I covering the church, I praying at the church, I stay at the door for part of the worship and stuff. And then I see, different men in the community as I'm there at the door. And from where I am, I greet the men. And so I even left and went to one of them. Because at the end of the day, I understand the importance of having men. But most of our churches, unfortunately, have predominantly women. And that is another problem in and of itself. And we're not discriminating against women. We thank God for women. But we definitely need, one, to see more men in the church. And we need to see more men actively involved in providing leadership. Yeah, we see it at the pastoral level because most pastors are men. But then when you look throughout the church, unfortunately, then you don't see that level of male involvement in the church. And I think that that's something that we need to see more of. So if we want men to lead in the home, I think it is only fitting that they also be able to lead in different contexts, in different areas to kind of balance things out. So we need to definitely see men involved. And yes, leaders have to take intentionality. They have to be intentional about that. And that's something as a pastor that is on my heart. And I told the congregation this. I told the congregation. I said in church Sunday morning, I count off 10 women before I got to one man. 10 women before I got to one man. And I say, listen, our priority as we go out to do evangelism is to find and reach men. We want to see more men. And my message on yesterday in church was healthy men, healthy church, strong men, strong church, spirit-filled men, spirit-filled churches. And so I really was like, we have to do better when it comes to reaching men, when it comes to mobilizing men, getting men involved. We have to do better because if we're talking about men as leaders and the men are absent, then if they're absent, then they can't provide leadership. Yeah, so we don't want to miss in action either in the home, either in the workplace, or either in the church. Yeah, so that,
I
that, that's
agree, Pastor
that's my
Bueno. I
take on
agree.
that.
I agree, especially because we're going to wrap up shortly, but especially in the home, and that's where the foundation of it really starts, the home. And too often, I guess we've heard that you said that women sometimes, limit men about functioning in their role as leader, but then sometimes there are just some men that don't want to take it up either because I've often had conversation with women, and the gist of it is that because somebody's doing it, they don't feel the need to also do it. So it's interesting to also hear these perspectives. But we're winding down because we've just got about a couple minutes left in our show this morning. But I just want to encourage you and remind you, you've seen it scroll across our screen, the the Becoming a Better Man conference. The cost is $30. For those of you who are hearing right now, feel free to just WhatsApp us right now. $30. We've got a great day ahead of you. We start live on Friday night, the 17th, via Zoom. In a conversation only for men, and then on the 18th, on Saturday, at Restoration Ministries International, we are then just having the men just share. Bishop Bino and Minister Sinclair will all be talking about God, your Father, understanding fatherhood, leadership, roles, responsibilities, all of that more in depth. And it's going to be in a safe space. It's all happening at Restoration Ministries International in Britton Hill. That's on Saturday, the 18th, the day before Father's Day. So we're celebrating the men. Special shout out to Springs Healing Touch, to Fiona, for making sure that we can have some great giveaways for our men. Yeah, some great giveaways for our men on that day. And of course, we're looking forward to have you. Bishop Mark will be sharing in the evening from about 5 o'clock, talking about the man of purpose. So we got a great evening for you, a great evening ahead. But it starts with you registering just $30, 30, by calling 827-3029. So I want Pastor Bino and Minister Sinclair to share some closing words with us this morning. Leadership. Let's encourage our men to move towards leadership. We're going to continue this discussion next week. Man, the real leader. Go ahead, Pastor Bino, Minister Sinclair.
It goes back to men understanding the call of God in their lives, yeah, and going back to how God started things in creation, and understand that God created man first, and there was a reason for that. God is very intentional in what He does, and there is equality, and we're not taking away from equality, but we want to see men step into their God-given role, their God-given purpose, understand the potential that God has placed within them, and see that potential mobilized for the glory of God.
Yes. Sorry to get a chance to rebut earlier, but the thing with as my thing is that if you're having, as I said, having to fight a person to show your leadership, the end of the day you chose the person, and even if that is part of leadership, the question is really why did you choose that person? Yeah. And I think that when we understand responsibility and accountability, discipline and self-discipline, I think that for me, I found that that has helped me tremendously. At the conference, I'll be sharing three principles, um, identity, and I think that that is going to be very tremendous for the men that are there from from the level I'll be sharing. But there are four principles of success to share with you guys. There's relationship, equipping, attitude, and leadership. And John Maxwell has a very
You
powerful
need to
book
repeat
on
that
leadership.
once again, Sinclair. You went really
Sorry,
fast with it. Go
sorry
ahead.
about that. Sorry about that. There are four principles when it comes to being successful, and the four are relationships, equipping, attitude, and leadership. And John Maxwell has a very good book on leadership. I would advise men and start to invest in reading and conferences and stuff like that, if because the society is not equipping our men to lead. Jesus, there's some men that came to Jesus voluntarily, and there are people that Jesus chose to come into spaces. And I think that that is where the church needs to understand that. That's from my perspective. There's some people that would never understand who they are, but it's for us to see the king inside of the guy and call it out and develop it. And as a result, he would then understand who he is. Because you can live a lifetime and die and never ever understand your potential. So you would never see it come to fruition. So I think that leadership and a man calling that man out of another man, I think is pivotal to see a leadership in our society.
I like those nuggets. Maybe we'll pick up on that from next week as we continue. Man, the real leader. Don't forget a conference coming up on the 17th and the 18th. Thanks to Pastor Bino. Thanks to Minister Sinclair. And a special shout out to all of you who joined us today and to all who are celebrating birthdays today. Happy birthday to all of you. That has been our show for today, Men on Monday. And of course, we are talking about becoming a better man. Again, offering our apologies for Bishop Mark, who is away on duty today and couldn't be with us, but he will be back with us, God willing, next Monday for another edition of Men on Monday. God bless you. Have a great one. And that has been our show for today, Men on Monday. Bye bye.